Okay, so here we are, session 3, and tonight we have some visuals. So everybody's got to pay attention, because at the end I'm going to ask everybody to count off the 7 visuals, so that you have those little visuals for yourself when you're figuring out what your family needs. So as Aruna said, this is Making School Work. It's the 3rd workshop for parents based on No Parent Left Behind, which is the book that I wrote kind of talking about my 32 years of experience testing kids, working with families, advocating for children, living in school systems, and doing what needs to be done. So you are the expert in your child. You know your child better than anyone. And if you think there's something that needs to be addressed, you are almost certainly right. So this is the agenda for the 4 workshops. Tonight's session is the 7 habits of highly effective special needs families, which I hope is going to provide you with a lot of concrete, hands-on, easy, fun things that you'll be able to use with your family. So, and if this sounds a little bit like Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, that's because I kind of thought that that was a good jumping off point, in fact, and I'm not using so much of his ideas, but I liked the idea of just kind of 7 habits that really make your family work, and so that was my jumping off point. When I work with parents, I find that many times they're looking for general information to help their children be successful. Yep, they want to know specifics about their child's strengths and weaknesses and their learning style and what they need in school, but they're also looking for ideas on how to help things work better on a day-to-day basis in their families, for the whole family, to get through the day, the week, and the school year. Parents want their children to be happy and successful, and this is often not an easy goal to get to. So here we are, back at the roadmap, and just this one graphic shows you many places where a child can get stuck, where a parent can have questions, where there's potholes in the road and you're not sure you're going to get to where you need to get to. And parents really do need a guide to help them, you know, especially if they have to fight for what a child needs in order to grow. So I thought, when I was organizing this, what might parents like to know about getting through the days? When I talk to parents after I've tested a child, some of the things that they ask me for are ways to be more organized, how to feel better about what they do for their child, how to feel more confident that they're doing the right thing for their child, and how to make time for themselves and their other children without feeling guilty. Because we all know it's never all going to get done. I mean, I think I should have that, like, we should all have that tattooed on our hands or something so we can look at it. It is never all going to get done. You're going to have to pick and choose what you do. And one of the questions that I asked when I first started was, what is different about a family who has a child with special needs? Is there a difference compared to a family whose children may not have any problems with learning or attention or, you know, sensory integration or whatever? Both families have to make dinner. They've got to supervise homework and showers and set up play dates and do projects. So is there a difference? And I decided, yeah, there definitely is. And I can tell you the difference in 2 words: more work. It's more work. There was actually so much information. We've got 2 slides that say more work. You know, it makes sense. Children with special needs often deal with the world in a different way from other children. It depends on your child's needs, but many times these kids work more slowly than other children. They use up a lot more energy during the school day. They show up much more tired. Many of them are fried when they get home from school. They have put out all of their energy trying to stay focused or process the language or stand in line the way they're supposed to or understand the material. Their homework may require skills that are not automatic yet, that are not even available to them yet. Many of them will come home with an emotional overlay. They may be sad, frustrated, or even angry by the time they get home. They may have been lonely during the day. Some kids have trouble with friendships and with social interactions, and they may go through the whole day and not really talk to another child during that day. They come home, lonely. They may be distractible, overactive, and that's going to make it tough at night. They may be less flexible or more moody. That's going to make the evening harder. Many of them can't yet work independently, and they may have physical or sensory problems that make handwriting or eating or getting ready for bed more difficult. So yeah, it's all more work. And I'm sure you can think of other ways in which your child with a special need struggles with life outside of school and requires more help from you. So if you think back to the speed bumps, if your child hasn't gotten over one or more of those speed bumps, then that's what you want to do. You want to try and help them get over it. Many kids who struggle with learning or with behavior or with attention don't deal with age-appropriate tasks in an age-appropriate way. They may struggle a lot more. They need time, patience, flexibility, practice, and they need more input from adults. When I talk to parents after the testing has been done and I say, what are your concerns? What are your biggest concerns? Some of the things that parents will tell me are that they're concerned about having their child develop academic skills that are closer to grade level. They're concerned about homework, about social skills and life skills, about their child developing independence and being able to do things more independently. And they want their kids to feel good about themselves. They want them to be happy. Here's a rule that I wish to heck I had used more when my children were younger. And so it is, never do something for your child that he can do for himself. So this one I think should go on everybody's refrigerator once their kids are no longer toddlers. And as I said, I wish I had done more of that myself. Obviously there's times you're going to want to do something for your child. You're going to want to make them breakfast or fix their hair or set up a play date or help them find the answer to a question. Lots of things. I am sure you all do stuff for your kids every single day. But as much as possible, you want to be doing this stuff for them until they can do it for themselves. The goal is that you're doing this on a temporary basis, not forever. The goal is for your child to be able to do stuff for himself or herself. So how do we help our children and ourselves? We use the 7 habits of highly effective special needs families. They're on 2 slides. Number 1, every family needs a plan. Number 2, you can't get water from an empty well. Number 3, nothing gets better without practice. Number 4, nurture a balanced life. Number 5, be direct and consistent in your communications. Number 6, begin with the end in mind. And number 7 is celebrate every day. So, as we go through these one by one, you may say to yourself, oh, I do that. I do some of that. I know some of this stuff, and that's good. I believe that you probably do. You probably do part of all of this stuff. It's always good to hear that you're doing the right thing or to feel that there's some encouragement for what you're doing. And that's one of the things I'm hoping for this evening. And the other is I hope that you won't have thought of some of this stuff so that you'll get something useful that you can take away with you. So I also brought with me my box of magic. These are my magic helpers. And they are the tricks of the trade that will help you as parents to help the whole family be more effective and happier. So let's talk about the first habit. Habit number 1. Every family needs a plan. And it should be visible, colorful, fun, and used by the whole family. Effective families have a plan to get through the day, the week, and the school year. They have a basic level of organization that works for them. So, out of my magic box here, I will pull my first prop, which is the whiteboard. The whiteboard, the biggest one you guys can find, obviously lots bigger than this, and it should be hung in a very public place, in the kitchen, or the family room, or the hall on the way to the bedroom. What you're going to do with that is use it as a master schedule for goals the goals that your children are working on. For your child with special needs, those goals are going to come from his or her IEP. They're going to be the things that are listed on that page, on those pages, goal number 1, goal number 2, and there's going to be certain tasks there that are part of each of those goals. Those are the things that are going to go on the whiteboard and be practiced. And since, as you can see, it says name, because I believe that every child in a family should have goals that they're working on, and that there's not a child anywhere who doesn't have something that they need to practice. So you use the whiteboard, and you are able to list the goals, how your child's going to do it, how often, and the 2 important things here are every child has goals, and the child takes responsibility for working on his or her goals. Sometimes those goals will be things that are not on the IEP, like skills for independence or organization or social interactions. Those get written down too. I don't recommend using it for things like sports or lessons. You can have a calendar that's for that. This habit makes sure that your child knows what to work on, and it makes sure that you notice and comment on it. So use lots of colors. Make it snazzy. Kids love it when it's colorful and it's bright, and they see you marking things off when they've done their practice. And some people will ask me, does this work with teenagers? And my answer is yes. This definitely will work with teenagers. It may take them a couple of weeks to come around and really buy into the system, but if you're using it, your teen is going to begin using it as well. So that's habit 1. Habit number 2, you can't get water from an empty well. You need to trust your instincts. As the airlines say, you need to put on your own oxygen mask first before you take care of your child. You have to take care of yourself and your partner if you have one. And then sharpen the saw, which is something Stephen Covey does say. And what I mean by that is you keep learning so that you can be a better advocate for your children. And find a group of people who won't mind listening to you and talk with them. No parent should be an island. So okay, second visual. The empty glass. This is what a parent is like when they aren't taking care of themselves. You will notice there is nothing in the glass. You've got to put something in if you're going to have something to give out. It's really important for parents to take care of themselves. I have worked with lots of parents who are worn out and just have nothing left to be helpful to their kids because they're not taking care of themselves. So this is not just a recommendation. It's one of the 7 habits, and it makes a huge difference in how happy and how well your family will work. Habit number 3. Nothing gets better without practice. Okay? You know this is true for everyone, but how do you know what to practice? The first thing you have to realize is that everybody starts out with a certain level of skills, and you can't really take credit for that. No matter what you showed up with, you can't really take credit for that. It's what you do with it afterward that counts. And so if you have a child with special needs who struggles in certain areas, that's where they are starting from, and they will improve depending on how much they practice. That's the part where you start measuring, is from where they start from. If you've got a child who struggles with learning or with behavior or with social interactions, that's where they start from, and you measure them as they get better with practice. Persistence. Persistence is the most important trait your child needs. There's a ton of research showing that people who are successful, it doesn't correlate with how bright they are or how gifted they are or how talented they are or how anything. It correlates with how persistent they are. That is what determines success. So with regard to practice, you will have concrete goals that go on the whiteboard. You will talk about the goals with your child, and you will practice. And here is where's my magic ingredient? Here's my magic ingredient for this one, and it's a timer. I would have liked to have brought my microwave, but it was kind of too big for the box. But the microwave and the timer are your magic ingredients for practicing, for a couple of reasons. The biggest one is it takes you out of the struggle with your child. It's time to practice. I don't want to, I'm not ready, I'm not in the mood. When it's time to practice, it's okay, how long are you, what does it say on the board? How long are you going to practice? I'm going to set the microwave for that amount of time. And at that point, all you are is the recording secretary. You are no longer part of the struggle. And depending on what your child is working on, when they're young, it can be 5 minutes. It can be 5 minutes of looking at sight words, or studying math facts, or reading out loud. When they're older, it'll be a longer period of time. If it's a child who struggles with attention, and his goal is to work for 10 minutes without getting up from the table, and without getting distracted, you set the timer for 10 minutes, and then make a big deal of putting stars or checks or whatever you want on that whiteboard when it's done. But nothing will get better. Not homework, not reading, not studying, not anything will get better without practice. If children all know they need to practice. For some things like social skills, you might have to get creative and set up a practice time that involves an older sibling or you. And you set the timer and you practice, whatever it is they're going to practice. Nothing gets better without practice. That's one of the problems with IEPs. Nothing comes home for the child's practice at home. And there's a lot more to the day than just the few hours your child is in school. The stuff that they're working on needs to get practiced at home as well. And so for every child, there's something to practice. And that's where you involve the whole family in a shared goal. Habit number 4, nurture a balanced life. All aspects of life are important. Education, sports, friendships, family time, individual time, having friends. It's all important. And every child needs to know, as I say to parents sometimes, every child needs to know that they are worthy and that they do some things really well, regardless of the things they may struggle with. You've got to remind your child and you of the things that they are good at and keep a balance in life for each family member. So, okay, I should probably line these things up here. 1, 2, 3. Here's my reminder for a balanced life. It's my margarita glass here. Okay? Because I thought a scale or a balance was just too dull. The glass reminds us that we have to put in something fun every week. I don't really recommend that you pour your child a margarita unless it's been a really, really, really bad week, in which case, go for it. But, you know, still, it's just as important to remind yourself and your child of the things he does well as it is to work on the things that he's still struggling with. When I evaluate kids, I always ask the parents, what does your child do really well? There's a psychologist in the Boston area called Robert Brooks who has done a lot of research on self-esteem. And he talks about looking for the islands of competence, meaning the little areas in each child's life where they are really successful and where they really shine. And every child has those islands of competence. They kind of get underwater sometimes when we're focusing on the things that your child can't do as well or the things they're working on. But I've tested so many kids who, you know, one little girl who was 9, who is still not reading, but she's a wonderful dancer. And her mother takes her to dance class 2 or 3 times a week, and she dances with a dance team, and she said, I don't know how she remembers all these dance routines, but she does. And she goes to competitions, and she's wonderful at it. I see lots of kids who are not doing well academically and who don't have good attention spans, but they have a lot of friends. They're likable. They're easy to be with. Other kids like to be with them. Kids who are good athletes. Kids who are good big siblings. You know, there is something there. There are those islands of competence. And every week you have to make sure that your child has a chance to do something they're really good at. Because most of the week they're spending their time doing things that they're not so good at and things that are not so easy for them. And it can't all be slogging through the mud. There's got to be the margarita and the skating and the dance class as well. So, number 5, be direct and consistent in your communications. Communication is the key to solutions at home and in contacts with school and therapists and other professionals. You use the triangle of communication that's on the next slide that I talked about before. Almost anything that's not working well can work better if the communication is going in all 6 directions. And if it's not, then there's likely to be more of a problem. And my visual for this is a microphone, because you need to make your voice heard, and you need to make sure that you are clear and direct and that you keep saying it even if it doesn't get through the first time. So there's my triangle there, and the issue of communication is, you know, what is expected of my child? What is working? What's not working? What can we do to make this situation better? The idea on the previous slide about thinking win-win, that's another one of Stephen Covey's things. And he claims you can do win-win all of the time. In my experience, I find there's a point where win-win is no longer working sometimes when you deal with the school system. When you've done your best and you've advocated and you've explained and you've met and you've communicated and it isn't working. And at that point, you really need to be as clear and direct in your communication as possible and make sure that there's a written record of those communications so that you can actually document what you have tried, what's worked, what hasn't worked. It's all going to be necessary as you deal with the school. Remember, the school's problems are not your concern. It's about your child. It's not about the school. So, habit number 6 is begin with the end in mind. Focus, clarify your goals, and pace yourself. For you and your child, it's real important to know where you want to get to, where you want to end up, and how to know when you get there. it's easy to get pulled from one problem to another, especially if you're just starting on the road and you've got a pile of concerns. It's important that when you're starting, you focus on one at a time. One concern, one goal, a big one at a time, and you stay focused on that until you're starting to get some movement, until things are starting to get better. And I suggest to parents that they post it on their Facebook page so that their friends will ask them, how's it going? How are you doing in getting this help for your child, in making this work better? Post it on a Post-it note. Stick it on your bathroom mirror so that you notice it all of the time. And where is my, okay. So you'd be listing your goals, clarifying your goals, and listing them on the whiteboard for you and your children to see. And that means that you've got to stick to the most important ones. Nobody can work on more than like 5 goals at one time. If it's your child and he or she is practicing, there can't be too many things on that whiteboard. So you've got to pick the most important ones to start with. My visual here is a trophy, because your child and family should feel like winners as you proceed and you reach your goals. And you also have to remember to pace yourself. This is a marathon. This is not a sprint. It takes a long time. Your child is going to be in school for many, many years. If you have a child with a significant special need, they could be getting services for 19 years or more. You know, they're entitled to get services until they're 22. So you've got to pace yourself so you don't run out of energy beforehand. It's easy to get overwhelmed. You have to review the goals with your child every week or every month. Make sure your child understands what they're supposed to work on. How is it going? If your child isn't making progress, take that goal and break it down into something smaller. The idea is that you want your child to be successful every week. So if they're not really managing that goal, then you got to break it down into something smaller so that you can make sure that they're successful. And finally, this one's my favorite. Habit number 7, celebrate every day. Notice something good about your child every day, and small daily successes are best. If you ask your child every day, what went well today? What worked out well for you? Tell me a time when you were successful, when something worked out. At first they may say to you, I can't remember anything, or there wasn't anything. You know, you'll get that a lot, there wasn't anything. But if you ask every day, even the teenagers are going to start coming home and telling you something that went well. They're going to come home and say, I had the right answer in social studies, or I got my lab report done in class, or I turned in my homework. Amazing. And they will bring things home. The issue is that you got to keep asking. And this is my favorite one here. I love this. So the thing I want you to remember here, I've got my cupcake and I've got my candle. But this is not just an ordinary candle. Okay, we're going to let that burn for a minute. And then I will show you something. You want to celebrate every day. I hope I waited long. Okay. Watch. There. It comes back on. And the message here is you want something small that you celebrate every day, so that the next day your child comes home and tells you something else that went well. And the next day after that, they come home and they tell you something else. And that's how they build confidence, and they begin paying attention to what's going well as the stuff that isn't going well. You know, it's important that you live in the moment, that you notice what's happening in the moment, because that's the way to make sure that there's something happy to think about every day. Most of you probably know about Cesar Millan, the dog whisperer guy, the one who works with the dogs that have horrible behavior problems and gets them to all behave well. And he says that dogs act as though every walk is the best walk, and every meal is the best meal, and every game is the best game. And that's why dogs are always in a good mood. And I'm like, okay, fine, well, we're not working with dogs here, but still, if you're noticing something, or more than something, several somethings every day that's going well, it's going to make your child feel a lot more successful. Now you can stop now. Thank you. There. Oh, no, you're not going to stop now? Okay, so how do families put these 7 habits into practice? They take small steps, they post the list of habits, and they ask for help. You post the list of habits someplace because, to paraphrase George Harrison, you will develop the skills that you pay attention to, and so will your child. It's not exactly what George Harrison said, but that's okay, it's close. And it's true. You will develop the skills that you pay attention to. And those are the ones you need to be working on. And asking for help. You know, a family, all families are a team. Families with kids who have special needs are a team. And they need to work together as a team. I don't know about you, but I find it very hard to ask for help. I have this feeling that I should be doing all of it myself, and I shouldn't be asking. When my kids were little, I shouldn't ask them for help. I shouldn't ask other people for help. When the caring committee told me they were going to show up here and make coffee and tea and bring cookies, I was stunned. I was like, you're going to come? You're going to help? That's so nice. You know, I assumed I would just have to do it myself. Well, you know, life is a lot better when you ask for help. And children need to feel as though they are important. And part of that is feeling that they're contributing and that you all work together as a team. So it's important to ask for help as well as to give it. So there's a guy lived Victorian era called John Ruskin. He's an English educator. And I put this quote in because it really applies to all of our kids. In order that people may be happy in their work, 3 things are necessary. They must be fit for it, they must not do too much of it, and they must have a sense of success in it. Children do best when there is a routine, when they know what to expect, and when it's not too much for them to do so that they can feel successful. And this is especially true for any child who struggles with any kind of a special need. And the payoff is less stress, more success, and a better sense of empowerment for you and your children, and effective progress, which we will be talking about in a lot more detail in 2 weeks. But there's our ultimate goal. So, okay, there's our 7 visuals for everybody to be able to whiteboard, empty glass, timer, margarita glass, trophy, microphone, and cupcake. A whole thing right there.